used to be considered a hallmark of the human species. When Louis Leakey first heard about Tool using at Gombe, he got extremely excited and said, "Now we have to redefine man, redefine Tool, or include chimpanzees with humans."
A chimpanzee brain will never design a computer, nor even imagine a durable tool chipped from stone. But his brain is more similar to our own than is that of any other living creature. And surely it was thus that our distant human ancestors began, learning to master the natural world in the constant struggle to survive. To a thirsty chimp, rainwater trapped in the hollow of a tree is inviting but not easily reached. Once again, the chimps have learned to solve a problem by fashioning a tool. Wadded leaves act as a sponge. Chewing makes them more absorbent. Using the sponge, the chimp can get as much as 8 times more water than with fingers alone. Inherently curious, youngsters like Fifi learn from older chimps, and thus the technique is passed on. Baboons at Gombe outnumber the chimps by about 4 to 1. For the most part, the two species coexist peacefully. But the baboon is a competitor for food, and friction can arise. Because he has the intelligence to use a weapon, yet another type of tool, even a youngster can intimidate a fully grown male. The bluff works. But as Jane would find out, sometimes the aggression is very real. A young baboon has been captured and killed by a group of chimps, and they will feast on its remains. Jane's discovery astounded the scientific world. The chimp is not the gentle vegetarian we had thought, but, like humans, a formidable predator. Sometimes cooperating to hunt and stalk their prey, they also kill young antelope, bush pigs, and monkeys. For the most part, chimps eat meat only they themselves have killed. Indeed, a dead animal is often a puzzling sight. When renowned animal behaviorist Konrad Lorenz saw this film sequence, he said, "Ah, here we have the world's first zoologist."
Right here.
With Gombe's growing fame, visiting students and scientists became a regular part of the scene. One day, as part of a project to record chimpanzee calls, Jane put out bananas in great quantities. The result, an eruption of frenzied excitement, desperate begging, and violent aggression. Because of the excessive hostilities aroused, Jane disapproved of such human intervention. But the episode was not without value, revealing the intricate patterns of chimpanzee dominance and submission, and the chimp's intense need for reassurance by touch. The sounds of the encounter were carefully analyzed by students specializing in chimp vocalization. With the passing years, Gombe drew students from around the world, with interests ranging from biology to communication to psychology. They came because of Jane and the unique opportunities of the living laboratory she created here. To avoid future aggression over bananas, Jane devised a system of rationing by remote control. Now the chimps were fed only if they arrived alone or in small groups, and then just once in 10 days. Apparently not happy with this new state of affairs, the ever-creative chimps made their wishes known. The chimps' presence in camp provided an opportunity for experiments not possible in the forest. How would they react to something new? All chimpanzees are intensely curious, but often afraid of the unfamiliar. For the first time, Flint attempts the typical male intimidation display, pulling vegetation and stamping. Later, Jane put out a mirror. It was clearly a fascinating mystery. In retrospect, Jane will say that had she known her study would continue indefinitely, she would not have encouraged contact between herself and the chimps. For one thing, they are stronger than humans, and if they lose their fear, dangerous. Indeed, in the future, Jane would minimize all interaction with the chimps. But for the moment, after the long struggle for acceptance, David's silent consent to be groomed was a prize beyond measure. In 1966, tragedy strikes. An epidemic spreads from a nearby village, and Gombe awakes to the devastation of polio.
Nothing that has happened at Gombe, before or since, has been as horrible. Nothing. They were among the darkest days of my life, a living nightmare. The worst tragedy was old Mr. McGregor. He lost the use of both his legs, and he could only move by pulling himself along the ground by his arms. The other chimps were frightened by this strangeness and shunned old Gregor. Only his close relative Humphrey stayed nearby.
The mother, Ollie, has lost her month-old infant to the disease. Though she knows he is not alive, she carries his dead body for 3 days. Polio vaccine is flown in and fed to the chimps in bananas, but for many it is too late. Flo's son, Fabian, paralyzed in one arm, protects it by walking long distances upright. To get food, Mr. McGregor had learned to pull himself into trees with the strength of his arms alone. But he dislocates a shoulder while trying to climb and now can no longer move at all. Jane knew she had but one choice. Her longtime friend must be shot. But 1967 would bring joy. Married 3 years, Hugo and Jane now had a son. Little Hugo, nicknamed Grub, would grow up in a world most children never even see. Spending less time at work to be with Grub, Jane modeled her behavior after the patient, affectionate chimp mother she had long observed. Gombe was the ideal place to raise a child, she said. You could focus on the important things in life: family, unity with all living creatures, being part of the natural world. As she watched her own son grow, Jane continued to track the development of Flo's son, Flint, who was now 4½. Pregnant with her 5th child, Flo was increasing her attempts to wean Flint. Typical of youngsters his age, he resisted, still trying to suckle and demanding to ride on Flo despite his large size. When denied his way, Flint threw violent temper tantrums, even hitting and biting his mother.
Perhaps because she was too old to cope, Flo often gave in and let Flint have his way. Later, this would have grave consequences.
Later that year, the baby was born and Jane named her Flame. Still attached to the placenta, Flame was just a few hours old. Because females give birth only every 5 to 6 years, a newborn always stirs much curiosity among the youngsters. Jane wondered what the birth would mean to Flint. Flint's behavior would be expected to change with the new arrival, but instead he was getting worse.
Even after the birth of his sibling, when most youngsters become more independent, Flint continued to pester his mother for attention, and more often than not, Flo gave in to his demands.
Even with Flame at Flo's breast, Flint sometimes tried to suckle. Six months later, while Flo was ill, Flame disappeared, never to be seen again. With no baby to care for now, Flo stopped even trying to encourage Flint's independence. Jane wondered if he would remain an infant forever. Life expectancy of a wild chimpanzee is guessed at 40 to 50 years. Flo, now well past 40, was feeble and worn, spending most of her time resting quietly near Flint.
Although I knew that Flo had become very old indeed, it was still a sad day when I found her dead body lying in the stream. For me, it was like losing an old friend. For Flint, it was like losing his whole world. Flint stayed by himself, close to the place where Flo had died. He ate very little. He became increasingly lethargic and depressed. And finally, in this state of grieving, he grew sick. 3.5 weeks after losing his mother, Flint died too.